In my time away from Star Citizen as I await 3.18, I've spent that time playing a few games, to distract myself from thinking about when I'll finally get to fly my vulture. And so with the expanse of space still calling, and a periodic urge to shoot and loot, Marauders seemed like an obvious choice. And here's the thing, if you're a Star Citizen and you haven't already picked Marauders up, I really think you should. Citizens and Marauders, my name's Beard of Oz, and today I'll be going over the dot points of this game, what it is, what you do in it, why I'm enjoying it, and why I think you might like it as well. Let's dive in. To put it simply, Marauders is an extraction looter shooter, much in the same vein as Escape from Tarkov, Hunt Showdown, and to a lesser extent Dark and Darker. If you don't know the premise behind this game style, it's simple enough. You gear up your character, drop into a map with the overarching goal of killing AI and players, looting their gear, looting the gear contained and hidden in the surrounding environment, then getting the heck out. And if you do, celebrations are in order. If not, and you happen to die, you'll lose the gear you were carrying whether you brought it in or found it, and you'll be deposited at your start screen and you'll do it all over again. There's more nuance and content involved, but that explanation will do until I touch on those points later in the video. So Marauders is developed by a small team in the UK called Small Impact Games, and it's published by Team 17. The game itself is in its alpha state, and I have to say, I currently haven't had too many issues with it. Sure, we'll have the occasional crash, but it's not like the whole server gets dropped. I backed it some time ago, when the only way to get the game was downloading it through Discord, but it wasn't in the best shape, and the 300 ping wasn't really my jam, so I left it alone. But having seen it pop up on Steam, with a few notable content creators trying it out and having a blast, I figured it was time to jump back in, and boy am I happy I did. The best way I can describe Marauders to anyone is Tarkov casual. The raid times are short, you have a lot more freedom within the raid, more on that later, and the learning curve is much shorter and much less punishing. And while I know that is all subject to change as the project is fleshed out and expanded upon, I'd urge anyone who enjoys a good shoot and loot to consider giving the game a go. So how do you even maraud? I won't go in depth in this video, but I will cover the basics so you know what you're getting into. I might do some videos that go a little deeper later on. For starters, Marauders is a first-person shooter, with a small but enjoyable third-person spaceship combat. And for those coming from Star Citizen, I cannot stress this enough. It's simplified, but I kinda like that. So we'll go over the start screen and break down what you've got here and how that will come into play for you. Let's work left to right. Play will have you starting menu here. You can dash straight into a raid by hitting launch. If you don't fancy playing solo, you can create or join a crew. Crews can be password protected, and you can join on your friend's Steam without having to search for whatever weird name they've come up with today. Each crew has one ship. That's it, you share it. Not a big deal flying solo, but something to keep in mind for group play. The crew leader is captain of the ship and holds the ship's keycard. That's important to note, and remember when raiding in a group, more on that later. Next is gear. Here you'll have your Marauder and your stash. You can kit up your Marauder for the next raid with items such as weapons, armor, medical and food supplies. Your stash is quite small, but you can expand it with containers and bags and through the use of prestiging in the late game. It's a small space, and after you bring in some loot from a successful raid or two, you'll start to see the importance of storage management. Next is crafting, and this is a huge part of Marauders if you want to succeed. Leveling up will grant you crafting tokens, the currency with which you can unlock recipes, and a little bit of money too. Recipes are gated behind level progression. The higher level you are, cooler items you'll be able to craft. Guns, armor, consumables, containers to expand your stash size, and yes, even ships. Within the crafting section you can also break down items, each with a percentile chance to reward you with certain components to craft other items. It's the looter's salvage circle of life. I'm looking at you, Star Citizen. Next is trade. Periodically, traders from the different in-game factions will mosey on by offering you a chance at their wares. The range of their selection as well as your potential discount with those vendors is reflected by your standing with their faction. More on that shortly. You can also sell items to these vendors to fuel your rage-induced raids by buying more weapons, armor, and consumables. Next is appearance. This is pretty straightforward. Unlock cosmetic variations to your marauder so that you can strike fear into the hearts of enemy marauders, express the inner you, or more importantly, stand out so your teammates don't mistake you for an enemy and put you down. Unlocking access to some cosmetics may require you to reach a certain level or complete a certain task, so crack on. Next is contracts, the bread and butter of your level progression. The primary quest line is your 0 to hero. Completing these will not only level you up faster, but also unlock recipes for crafting items, cosmetics, and just give you a purpose in this never-ending cycle of violence, death, and loot. It'll also raise your standing with the factions, primarily the pirates. Yarr! We also have our daily contracts, a slew of tasks, some simple, others a little more complex that will have you killing, looting, staring at objects, and places holding down the F key for nerve-wracking amounts of time, all in order to get money, experience, faction standing, and loot. It's the faction standing that really matters because better standing means more options, better discounts, etc. Next is weapons. This is essentially a cool place to look at your guns and change their attachments. You can add attachments in the gear tab, it just looks way cooler here. Last but not least, the Hangar. Here, your faithful, reliable, and most importantly free rust bucket will serve as a constant reminder that you will never truly be broken marauders. Even if you die, extract without your ship, or get disconnected, the rust bucket will always be here and ready to take you into the next raid. If you happen to build or steal, that's right, I said steal another better, cooler ship and successfully extract with it, you'll find it here. You can also use the Hangar to add attachments to those better ships, advanced weapons, that kind of stuff. Better quality ships will also have storage, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. But Beard, I hear you asking, you still haven't told me what to do. Well, I won't go too in depth, but let's go over it quickly. You go to contracts, get yourself some missions, you'll usually have 6 to choose from. You can pick 3 at a time. Simple things like bring me this, look at this are simple enough, in theory. You gear up. Trust me when I say you don't need to worry about losing your gear. The bread and butter items are easy and cheap to come by. You can never be completely broke and you'll always have a ship. Once you've got some gear, a gun, some ammo, some armor, what have you, enter the raid. You'll spawn inside your ship. On the table of the rust bucket, you'll always have a free Lunar, some ammo and a rig. See what I mean about never truly broke? Even if you have $0, 0 items in the stash, you'll always have a weapon and some ammo. You're free, living the marauder life. Be free of gear fear. Now go to the bridge of your ship. Press F for pilot. Congratulations, marauder, you are the captain now. You'll be in a map, it's randomly decided. Here's the beauty of marauders, you can leave if you want. Look for these structures with the yellow wormhole in the middle. That's the extraction point. There's 2 on every map at the edge. No more running through 3 choke points to get out. You're free. If you extract now, you have a gun, some ammo, and a rig. You will never be broke. There are 5 maps. Well, technically 6, but really 5. There's the Iridium Mine. There's the Terraformer. There's the Navy Outpost. There's the Space Station. And the 6th is a lack of a map, but it's still a map. It's just a demolition derby of ships. There's actually another one, I realized this as I was editing it, and it's the Penal Colony. You'll fly towards the map locale and maybe you'll shoot at some enemy ships. Maybe you'll disable them. Then they can get into their escape pod and attempt to board you. Or maybe you'll be disabled and run to your pod and try to board them. Or run. Or maybe you'll try to repair your ship with a fire extinguisher and continue the fight. So maybe you make it to the map. You'll enter via these yellow openings. Only ships can get in. Escape pods cannot. If you make it, you go down to your airlock and open it. Pressurize, and now the real raid begins. I won't detail this in the video, there's a lot involved with your missions and your raids, but the important thing to know is to escape the raid with your gear and your life, you'll need to extract. And to get back to your ship via the airlock, you'll need the captain's key. If you're in a squad and the captain goes down, you'll need their key. Loot their body, get back to your ship and escape. Killed another player and found their key? That works too. Find their airlock, equip their key, get out. So here's why I like Marauders so much. It's like Escape from Tarkov, but simplified. There's less to lose because guns are so easy to come by. The reduced level of gear fear allows players to embrace their Chad and put aside their rat. The raids are short. Each player has 25 minutes of oxygen before they die. No more, no less. You can't get any more. You can't reduce other players' oxygen. Shorter raids means faster gunplay. Getting into and out of the raid area and therefore the high tier loot areas is quicker. There's a heavier rush and again, faster gameplay. Shorter playtime means more players are able to jump into a game. Only have a spare half hour before work, before dinner, before bed? Easy. 30 minutes is enough for one, heck, maybe even 2 raids if you push for a faster extract. The ship combat is fun, but ultimately still leads to FPS ground combat. The guns are cool and easy to figure. The attachment range is straightforward. Ultimately, I think anyone who likes space games, shooters, looters, should play Marauders. It's in early access and it's already one of my favorite games. It's easy to pick up, easy to teach to a friend, and will provide hours of laughs, but also some solid group gameplay. It's also the kind of game that you can easily play solo. You don't need to roll 4 deep with high tier armor to win gunfights. The free Luger can easily drop a high gib player if you hit him in the squishy bit, his face. So if you haven't already, pick it up. And if you haven't liked the video, do that too. Subscribe if you like the cut of my jib and want to see more videos like this, and tell me in the comment section below if you do happen to pick this game up. Stay violent in the verse, Marauders, and I'll catch you all next time.